Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. My name is James Batchelor. Today we're talking to a new entrant into the remarketing sector. MOTOM launched in June and aims to reimagine how dealers and companies buy and sell stock. Joining to speak more on why it's launched and how MOTOM can help dealers is its CEO, Julian Humphries. Hello, Julian.
Yeah, hi James, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. Now, you've already appeared on the Car Dealer podcast. I think, in fact, you actually came on the show the day the company actually launched, which is a record for us. And that was in late June. I mean, how has the first sort of 4 to 5 weeks been for you?
Yeah, no, really good actually, and it was yeah. So I think when I joined the podcast, we'd been live for about 5 hours, so quite interesting. So for us, we internally called our launch at the time a soft launch, and that was about taking learnings from the market, trying to get a number of vendors and dealers on board in that period, so we do all the testing on the tech, in a pre-production environment, but it's good to have it in a production environment with real users on the platform. So that was always our objective, to get some real users on the platform, and I'm pleased to say we've got users on the platform. So objective ticked in that respect, and lots of learning and lots of discussion with vendors, lots of discussion with dealers about how we can help support their businesses.
Yeah, well, it must have been a manic first month. I mean, have you actually been able to sleep at all, or was it been all hands to the pump?
No, I've always been a great sleeper. I live on about 6 hours sleep a night. I'm just completely dark for that 6 hours, but the brain's active as soon as I get up and as soon as I go to sleep. So there's a lot going on. It's been fun.
So for those who might not have listened to the podcast, I mean, just tell us the background to starting your business, because it's quite an interesting story, isn't it?
Yeah, so it started with a conversation in late spring last year, which then culminated in a summer 21 of research, research in the market to understand who the players were, and more importantly, what vendors and dealers were looking for from remarketing platforms. Because what happened through COVID is, the world ended up online. Now, it got forced online. Now, does it stay wholly online, or is it digital and physical? So phygital, I think, is the word for the combination of the two. So I think we're in that kind of phygital world where it's digital and physical. But COVID pushed the activity online. So what we wanted to do was research the market and say, well, is there an opportunity to enter the market? Is there an opportunity to try and stand out in a market with a proposition that's a little bit different? And we started, so we're a joint venture with an Australian company, Flippercar, and the guys at Flippercar I've got a relationship with from a previous life. So we had a conversation about bringing the tech to the UK market, not as it exists in Australia, but UKize it. So effectively, the research was about where's the market? Do we think there's an opportunity? And if we did something, how would it support our potential customers? So, effectively, we've created started from a greenfield site in the UK. So we haven't got a presence, or didn't have a presence before the end of June. That's how it came about. And the research we did last summer has, helped us immensely with our launch and ideas and how we've developed the platform.
So what did your initial research find? Because, I mean, let's face it, the UK used car sector is one of the most vibrant in the world, isn't it? And it's no surprise that something that works in one country doesn't, you've got to remodel it for another country, haven't you?
Yeah, and we have remodeled it. Yeah, what we've done is, rather than being a listing service, we're a live trading platform, and the live trading platform combines some of the aspects of social media where one user connects with other users in a trusted environment, and a user can market a vehicle to just their connections, a subset of their connections, or all of the users on the platform. So that's where the social media aspect comes in, making connections. And that's one of the critical things to our platform is dealers and vendors making those connections. And that's probably where we differ to many, where we're not just a listing service. You can't jump on our website and see a full listing of vehicles. You need to be on the platform, make those connections. And that's where we've combined the social media aspect. And we think from a buying and a selling point of view, that there's an absolute trust in that model.
Yeah, well, that sort of leads me on to my next question, really, which is, we've seen a number of companies that have launched in the past 2 years or so, 5 years, what have you, and they're all saying that they're doing things differently. I mean, two names that spring to mind: CarWow, Motorway. I mean, what makes MOTOM different from the main competitors?
Yeah, I guess the CarWow proposition is much broader than ours.
Yeah.
But what they're trying to do is get consumer cars into dealers through their technology, and Motorway have got the motorway to sell your car. Where they're bringing consumer cars into the dealer. Our proposition is a wholesale proposition where it's dealer to dealer or vendor to dealer.
Yeah.
So it differs in that respect. We do give the dealers tools to compete with those new models, where they can use a tech platform that we've developed and invested in, putting ourselves in their shoes, that says, how do they bring consumer cars into their marketing and sales environment and be able to compete with the likes of Motorway and CarWow? Because if they buy a car from either of those two channels, they've got access to buying a used car, and hopefully a good one, but they don't necessarily have a broader relationship with that customer. What we do is we give tech tools to that dealer to build those relationships with the customer, where they might take the used vehicle in a part exchange situation, provide a new vehicle, or help that consumer trade out of that car.
Yeah.
So we put ourselves very much in the shoes of the dealer and say, how do we add value to the dealer? How do we become part of their ecosystem that allows them to look after consumers in their area? Without losing out to some of the larger organizations, and also having to develop the tech themselves and incur that investment. So we've developed the tech, we've incurred that investment, we'll let them have those tools.
Okay, well, before we get on to how the platform can work brilliantly for dealers, let's just talk. Let's take it right back to basics. So if I'm a dealer, I've just come across MOTOM. I mean, how do I sell stock, and how do I acquire stock on the platform?
Yeah, so first of all, the dealer would need to register with us, and they can register in a number of ways. So they can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play environment, and then it's on their mobile phone or tablet, and they register. We ask for 6 pieces of information, very light touch due diligence process. We know who they are, we allow them onto the platform. Equally, they can register through the website, and what we found is that a number of people would rather work with us on the web portal rather than the app, and that's fine, and that's why we've created both. So no issue. So once they're registered on our platform, which takes maybe maximum 3 or 4 minutes, we then encourage them to make connections and invite their connections onto the platform, and that's where that kind of social media piece comes from. And then what the dealer, trader or vendor can do is then market cars. So they market a car or upload a vehicle. Now they can do ones and twos via the app, or we can help them with API links or flat files where they can be uploaded in bulk.
Yeah.
Once the vehicle's in the platform, cars and vans, by the way, James. Once the vehicle's in the platform, they decide who they market that to. Now they might market it to a small group of individuals who they trade with, and they want a digital solution to trade with them, or they may say I want to market it to everybody on the MOTOM platform, or a bespoke list, and they get that choice. And they can market it from anything from 30 minutes up to a time limit of 24 hours, or they market it with no end time. So it sits on the platform until someone's bought it, and they can add a buy it now price. So the recipient of that listing says I can buy it now for £20,000 or whatever it is, or I can start bidding in an auction process from £19,000 for argument's sake. Yeah. So that's how the process works. The buyer sets up filters in the system. So they say, these are the type of vehicles I'm looking at buying. Yeah. So as soon as one of those gets marketed on the platform, they get a notification to say one of these has appeared, and 2 clicks on the app, they can make a bid or buy the vehicle.
Yeah. Well, judging from what you're saying there, I would imagine there's a strong time saving element to it and money saving element to it. I mean, that must form part of the proposition.
Yeah, so there's two parts to that really. The time is the technology is doing the hard work.
Yes. Where
the technology is saying, who do you want to market the vehicles to? So rather than having to send 100 emails out, the app does that for you. So you can market the cars to those 100 people with, press the 2 buttons. From a buying perspective, those filters allow you to say, I only want to see those cars that are relevant to me. So I haven't got to wade through listings and listings and listings. And really interesting, in some of our early research in the summer last year and our ongoing conversations, there are teams and teams of individuals in dealers who are searching almost classified pages to say, are there vehicles that I want to buy? With our platform, those filters are set up and it filters out and notifies a buyer when those become available. So that's where the time saving is. There's probably a financial benefit in that as well. The other financial benefit is our buyers' fees are fixed at £150 plus VAT for anybody across the board. There's no fee for listing. There's no subscription fee. There's no fee for using the app. So a seller can sell for free and a buyer's only paying £150. And in the market, that's competitive and saves our users money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know in the used car market at the moment, demand is still very strong yes. from buyers. But actually, dealers are fighting amongst themselves to actually get those customers into their showrooms or onto their website or what have you. I mean, can MOTOM actually help dealers get more customers into their showrooms?
Yes. So through our MOTOM for Personal app, which we give the dealers, they can encourage their existing customers or potential customers to market their car. So then they'll know who's interested in selling their used car. So that's a digital process. So that encourages consumers into that dealer. And as I say, they might be existing customers or potentially future or past customers. So there's a digital way that they can communicate, and there's a digital way that they can say to their customers, existing, past or future, that will help you dispose of your used car. Yeah, and we'll give them the tech to be able to do it.
I mean, it's quite interesting how you had an idea to launch the business, and you were doing research right at the height of the the used car boom. Prices were absolutely stratospheric. They've obviously come down a little bit now, but the used car market is still incredibly hot and will remain so until the new car market actually sort of recovers. I mean, what's been your take on what you've witnessed, and I mean, how's it influenced you setting up the business?
I think that if we go back to 2019, so pre-pandemic old rules, we thought there was space, or our thinking was, if we said let's go back to a market that could look like 2019, let's theoretically think that way. We think there's a space for MOTOM in the market. We think there's a space for a digital solution that adds value to both the buyer and the seller. Equally, through the pandemic, digital was maybe the only way that a buyer or seller could buy or sell. And then you think today there's probably a combination of the two that will exist in the market in the long term. And for us, entering the market now, did we think that the shortage of used cars was going to be here? Yes. Have we come from some, amazing strategic position where we've said the absolute timeline to launch is June 2022? No, we didn't. We've been opportunistic about it, really.
Yeah.
But what we've learned is that there's great conversations to have because we're not in a normalized market. Now, if we're in a normalized market, whether we still have those great conversations or not, we probably would. But I think what it's shown to us is that there's an appetite to try something different, and I think that's been a real benefit to us.
I mean, it's actually interesting what you say there, that I think there is an appetite to try something different. And one thing that we've seen throughout the pandemic is the more traditional forms of remarketing and platforms which dealers use they've had to adapt as well. I mean, the example that comes to mind is, of course, the auction companies, where they had to close their physical auctions because they had to during lockdown. Some auction companies haven't gone back to having physical auctions, some have. I mean, do you think technology is going to replace physical auctions? I mean, do you think we've waved that part of the industry goodbye?
I think there's an opportunity to coexist, James. I think is my take on it. I don't think it disappears completely. What happens 10, 15 years out from today, I'm not sure my crystal ball's quite working that well, but I think there's this case for physical and digital, phygital, as I mentioned earlier on. So I think the two coexist. I really do. And probably the footprint of the existing auction companies reduces, and we've seen over the past couple of weeks a number of the big auction companies reducing their footprint. So I think that's probably what happens, but I think there's still a sweet spot for auctions to play a part in the future.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's a younger generation of car dealers coming through, and for them, having an app or something on their smartphone or their tablet or what have you, that immediacy is what they are used to. They're probably not used to actually going to a traditional physical auction and standing in the lanes eating a bacon butty. The technology is more familiar to them, isn't it?
No, I think so, and that's kind of where we see the next wave of the market. And to be able to get a notification on your phone and be able to click two buttons and you've made a bid on the car. Yeah. All from your phone in a matter of seconds. That's progress. I'm sure there's still some buyers will want to eyeball the vehicle, and it's a little bit like the consumer market, really, where if everybody was wedded to a digital solution, showrooms would be dead. Yes. But people are still visiting showrooms.
Yeah. So
there's a behavioural change, but I don't think the behavioural change becomes absolutely digital, because we're as humans, we need that interaction.
Of course.
And digital doesn't necessarily do that all of the time.
Yeah.
And that's why we created the social media aspect of our platform, because you're actually connecting with individuals and real people. Everybody gets a rating. So every buyer who buys a car and every seller who sells a car gets a rating, a 0 to a 5 stars. So there's real engagement in that process. And real trust that's built up over time. So that's some of the human element as well. And the buyers and sellers making connections on the platform, that humanizes it as well.
Yeah. It's great to hear, because one of the things we're constantly hearing from car dealers at the moment is they're reluctant to change their stock profile, even though times are hard, but they don't want to change their stock profile. They still want to buy high quality stock from people they trust and know, and platforms such as yours can make that easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now you're only, I say you're only, but you're 5 weeks young. How are you actually promoting MOTOM? We're seeing lots of adverts, we're seeing lots of activity from you guys, but what are you doing to promote the business at the moment?
Yeah, so we first of all lifted the lid on the concept in March. So across social channels, so there's 4 of us involved as shareholders in the UK and the leadership team. So at that point in time, we changed our LinkedIn profiles and we talked about what we were doing. So we kind of lifted the lid on the MOTOM brand at the time, and then a combination of advertising, joining podcasts, so your podcast, a number of weeks ago, PR activity, social media. We've been all over all of the social media platforms, and interestingly, the most hits and click-throughs we get is Facebook. Instagram doesn't necessarily give us much traffic. LinkedIn next, and then Twitter third. So that's quite interesting in itself. And then we've run a number of email campaigns, we've run a number of advertising campaigns, and there's some good old-fashioned direct marketing and sales activities. So we've been out in the market talking to dealer groups, talking to independent dealers, vendors, and helping them and encouraging them to get on the platform. And then we've partnered with a number of businesses who operate in the same space as us, but are complementary to us. So we've used their support and help to help promote us to the dealers.
Finally, Julian, where do you see the real opportunity here for MOTOM? What's the goal, short term and long term?
Yeah, so UK market's our focus for now, and it has to be. And all of our energy and efforts are going into UK market, cars and vans. There's an argument that says we could adapt our proposition really easy to any vehicle with a number plate. So, large and heavy goods vehicles, motorbikes, leisure vehicles, and they would be 3 adjacencies in the UK that we say we could easily make that switch and quite comfortably make that switch. We think about Europe. And we think about the opportunity and the size of the market in Europe, and we think that there's probably a partner, be that a large dealer group or an OEM, that would want to take us into Europe with them. So that's an opportunity that we've got in our mind that says we would work with a partner of some scale in Europe to take our business across Europe, because actually bar the language that's written into the, when I say language, I don't mean the programming language, but the physical words that are used. The tech platform can work across many languages.
Yeah.
So if we were going to go into one of the main markets in Europe, like Germany, it's just a translation issue.
Yeah.
The name, when we researched the name, we had a view that as how does this work as a European or global brand? And
yeah, that's really obvious from the word, isn't it? I mean, it's you can imagine many people of different foreign tongues and different cultures understanding what that word is. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And that was one of the reasons why our partner in Australia, their tech platform is called Flippercar, but we thought for the UK market that was a little bit Australian,
yeah.
And actually had a few more negative connotations than it had positive. So that's why we started to research. We shortlisted to 5 names and researched those 5, and MOTOM was the standout.
Mm. Wow, fantastic! I mean, it's such an interesting story, and I do wish you the best of luck. But for today, Julian, thanks for coming on Car Dealer Live.
No, thank you, James. Good to talk to you.
Well, that's it for today's Car Dealer Live. Join us again very soon. Bye bye.